Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Tonight, we begin with a story that may sound simple at first, just a letter. But it is not just any letter. It is a letter written by the 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and it will be handed to every new citizen who has just taken the oath of allegiance to this country. Fox News obtained this letter, and its message is powerful. Trump congratulates new Americans, reminding them of the sacred bond they are forming with the nation's history, traditions, and values. In his words, our history is now your history. Our customs are now your customs, and our Constitution is now yours to safeguard, to honor, and to respect. Think about that for a moment. For people who may have spent years waiting, working, and dreaming about becoming Americans, this is not just paperwork. It is an invitation into a family, into a legacy. It is a reminder that America is more than borders or policies. It is a living story, one that each new citizen will now help to write. Of course, critics in the media frame this move as symbolic or even political. They say Trump is using the naturalization process to strengthen his own image. But here's the truth. Symbolism matters. When you tell a new citizen that they are now part of something sacred, you are strengthening the very fabric of the nation. At the same time, Trump has made clear that while he fully supports legal immigration, he also insists on higher standards. The Department of Homeland Security is reforming the citizenship test, reinstating neighborhood interviews, and ensuring that applicants truly meet the values and commitments required of Americans. Some say this makes the process harder, but many would argue it makes citizenship more meaningful. Trump's message is consistent. America welcomes those who embrace its values, but the nation cannot afford to lower its guard. Because if citizenship loses its weight, the nation risks losing its unity. And that is where the real story begins. Because behind this letter lies a bigger question, one that affects not just immigrants, but every American. But what does this moment reveal about America's deeper struggles, from the economy to everyday security? When we talk about immigration, it is never just about papers, laws, or procedures. It is about how those decisions affect the daily lives of American families. And that is why President Trump's message to new citizens carries weight far beyond symbolism. It touches the heart of America's economic and social fabric. Fox News reports that under Trump's policies, America has seen steady job growth, unemployment hovering around 3.5%, and wages improving for the middle class. Families who once struggled to pay their bills found new breathing room thanks to tax cuts and domestic energy expansion. In short, ordinary Americans benefited. And Trump has often pointed out, when the American worker prospers, the entire nation grows stronger. But here's where the issue becomes more complex. Social unrest, extremism, and unchecked illegal crossings threaten to undermine these gains. Hospitals, schools, and local communities carry the weight when systems are stretched thin. Citizens feel the pressures, not in political debates on television, but in longer lines at clinics, crowded classrooms, and rising costs of housing. That is why Trump insists that legal immigration, the kind that honors the oath and the Constitution, must be distinguished from the chaos at the border. Because if we do not protect the meaning of citizenship, then the achievements of the economy risk being swept away by instability. Consider the story of an American steelworker in Ohio. His job returned when Trump imposed tariffs to defend American industry. His paycheck grew, and for the first time in years, he could afford to send his daughter to college without borrowing. That progress, however, feels fragile when he watches news of violent protests or hears about communities overwhelmed by illegal entries. For him, the economy and security are not two separate issues. They are the same fight. This is the contrast that Trump has drawn time and again, results versus rhetoric. While opponents speak of compassion in vague terms, Trump argues that true compassion means protecting citizens, ensuring fair opportunities, and defending the institutions that allow prosperity to flourish. Economic growth cannot exist in a vacuum. It depends on stability, law, and order. It depends on the trust that when someone becomes an American citizen, they truly share in the responsibility of preserving the nation's values. And that is why this debate over immigration is not just about numbers. It is about whether America can remain a land of opportunity without losing its sense of unity. But prosperity means little without safety. And that's why Trump's border policies matter. When Americans hear the phrase border security, it may sound like something far away, a problem for politicians in Washington or agents along the Rio Grande. But the truth is this: what happens at the border reaches into every community, every school, every hospital, and every workplace in this nation. And that is why President Trump has made it a cornerstone of his message. Legal immigration? Yes. But chaos at the border? Never. Fox News has reported that in just 1 year, more than 2 million illegal crossings were recorded at the southern border. That number is staggering. To put it in perspective, it is larger than the entire population of some U.S. states. And when such an influx occurs, the consequences ripple far beyond Texas or Arizona. Local hospitals struggle with overcrowded emergency rooms. Public schools suddenly face the challenge of teaching hundreds of children who do not speak English, stretching teachers thin. Police departments in small towns must cope with unfamiliar cases, sometimes involving gangs or smuggling networks. And taxpayers, ordinary working Americans, are the ones who bear the cost. Trump's approach has always been straightforward: secure the border, support law enforcement, and restore order. He pushed for building the wall, not as a political slogan, but as a physical deterrent. He increased funding for Border Patrol and immigration and customs enforcement, giving them the resources to actually do their jobs. And during his first term, illegal crossings dropped significantly, a sign that deterrence works when leaders enforce the law. Critics in the media often frame this as harsh or lacking compassion. But let's pause for a moment. What is real compassion? Is it allowing unchecked flows of people that strain communities and put both migrants and citizens in danger? Or is it creating a system where legal immigrants can come safely, fairly, and with dignity, knowing that the nation they join has clear rules and a strong foundation? Trump argues the latter, and many Americans agree. Consider the story of a small farming town in California. For decades, legal immigrants worked the fields, built businesses, and became proud American citizens. But in recent years, that same town has seen its resources stretched by uncontrolled illegal entries. Local clinics ran out of capacity, crime ticked upward, and resentment grew. Not because of immigrants as people, but because the system was failing. The people who followed the rules felt betrayed, as if their efforts were devalued. Trump often points out that securing the border is not anti-immigrant. It is pro-citizen and pro-legal immigrant. By protecting the integrity of the system, he argues, America can continue to welcome new citizens with pride. Just as his recent letter to naturalized Americans emphasized, without security, there is no fairness. This is why the reforms underway at DHS matter. Tougher vetting, neighborhood interviews, and a restructured citizenship test may sound bureaucratic, but they restore meaning to the oath of allegiance. They ensure that when someone stands, hand over heart, pledging loyalty to the United States, it is not a hollow ritual. It is a real commitment to history, values, and law. In the end, border security is not about walls or checkpoints alone. It is about trust. The trust that America can remain a land of opportunity without descending into disorder. The trust that legal immigrants will be honored, not overshadowed by chaos. And the trust that every child, whether born in Texas or naturalized in New York, will inherit a country that is strong, secure, and united. But America's challenges don't stop at the border. They extend to the global stage, where rivals and allies alike are watching how we lead. When Americans think of security, the mind often turns to the border, to the economy, or to the safety of their neighborhoods. But security also has a global dimension. What happens in Beijing, in Brussels, in the Middle East, or even in cyberspace, eventually finds its way into American lives. And this is where President Trump has drawn some of the sharpest contrasts with his predecessors. His message has always been clear: put America first, not in words, but in actions that protect jobs, families, and sovereignty. Take China, for example. For years, administrations from both parties allowed China to flood American markets with cheap goods, eroding the industrial base of towns across the Midwest. Trump confronted this reality head-on, He imposed tariffs not to spark conflict, but to defend the American worker. Fox News reported how U.S. steel plants revived and jobs returned, even as critics warned of trade wars. For families in Ohio or Pennsylvania, those tariffs were not abstract policies. They were paychecks, mortgages, and college tuition. Then consider NATO. For decades, American taxpayers shouldered the lion's share of defense spending while wealthy European allies lagged behind. Trump pressed NATO members to increase their contributions, billions more in collective defense. Critics called it disruptive, but in truth, he was demanding fairness. Why should American families sacrifice while others enjoyed protection for free? Under pressure, allies stepped up, proving that strength through accountability is not only possible, but necessary. In the Middle East, Trump's record is equally striking. He brokered the Abraham Accords, bringing together nations once divided by generations of hostility. This was not theory or empty diplomacy. It was a concrete step toward peace, recognized even by skeptics. And it demonstrated something profound, that American leadership, when firm and principled, can bring stability to one of the world's most volatile regions. National security also extends into less visible arenas. Cyber threats, radical elements, and drug cartels operating across borders don't always make headlines, but they strike at the heart of American safety. Trump's policies strengthened intelligence sharing, tightened cooperation with partners, and prioritized action over speeches. The message was simple: America cannot afford to be passive in the face of 21st century threats. Critics often accuse Trump of being too forceful, too blunt on the world stage. But many Americans saw something refreshing: a leader who did not apologize for defending his own country. They remembered that diplomacy without strength is just talk, and that a strong America abroad often means a safer America at home. And yet, foreign policy is not just about treaties and tariffs. It is about the daily lives of citizens. The cost of energy, the safety of communities, the stability of markets, these are shaped by decisions made thousands of miles away. Trump's foreign policy sought to connect those dots, making sure that families in Kansas or Florida were not left paying the price for weak leadership overseas. At its core, Trump's vision of national security blends toughness with responsibility. He insists that America must project strength, but also that every action abroad must serve the interests of the people at home. It is a message that resonates with veterans, workers, and parents alike. Security is not abstract, it is personal. But strength abroad means nothing if American families are left behind. And that brings us to the heart of Trump's vision: family, values, and the future.